That's all that matters. We'll get it.
I really don't care if I ever do. When it says any question, everything fucking every time I think I'm starting to get it, I'm not.
Like, I'll answer stuff correctly, but it just doesn't, like, intertwine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I know this, but
none of it's connected.
I mean, I spoke to Kathy, and I was like, yeah, it's hard, and she was like, in time, you'll take other classes and you'll remember things.
Right.
It'll connect.
I hated Linux. It was horrible. Hear that? You know, she has a job in the industry, so evidently that can be it. I don't know. I just wish I could sit and like, you know, like create it and get it. You know, like really understand. Okay, I'm seeing this as the files, and I'm seeing this as the system, and oh, I get why this would actually be advantageous. I'm not.
I'm gonna draw. I wanted to copy.
When I want to sleep.
It's only okay to do occasionally. That's not good. Nice little house. I don't know. I'm not 5 fingers over.
It's crazy here.
Really?
Yeah.
Can one hear me?
Fun and roll.
Yeah, I can hear you, JJ.
Same thing. Now they make
So Tom, I was wanting to know that because I'm not feeling well, do I still get like a partial credit because I'm on Zoom and interacting with you guys?
No, you get a full credit.
Oh, full credit?
Yeah. Now, mine, it's only slightly larger than a brownie point, but why is this not working?
Pretty early.
Not well, a few minutes, but.
Wait, you said full credit?
Well, you're here. You're here, you know, through Zoom, so that's fine. I gotta restart this computer. Oh no, I don't want to do that.
Maybe I should do this more often. No, I'm kidding. If there's any.
If the system fails, just remember you're out of luck.
Speaking of, right after class, is there any chance I might be able to get your help on trying to get the whole email thing? Like,
No, it's too much drink. Oh, extra hydrated.
Oh my word. Oh boy.
What is it?
yeah.
Okay, if you're on, mute yourself, please.
Probably shoot you a message to see if you can open some of the stuff.
Yeah, just send me one and When is class end? When is, this class end?
5.
Or you mean date or time on the day? Date. Well, it should end on March 5th. Which is like next Tuesday? Next Tuesday, yeah?
Yep. Are we gonna take, are we doing a class? Are we having a test?
Yeah, that's not like.
Will we have a final?
I don't know where we are.
We'll have a file next week. 1 through 5.
Yeah, subscription.
That's what I'm saying.
Really?
I've been
wrong before.
Yes. For one call, yes. Wow. Because, I paid 40 for 10 max. It's not having a good day.
We had spent 2 days in a row. And definitely, was like, I'm just having the worst day.
That's cheap. And those is cheap. So for those of you who are here or online, just give me a few minutes. For whatever reason, the Zoom, they've been monkeying with all the networks again, and I've got Zoom going. I've got it on the 3 monitors in the classroom that we can get connected. And for whatever reason, the laptop will no longer connect to the Zoom. So give me a minute. I'm going to try another computer. Your bag. Tell you, it's all Noah's fault.
Still my suit. Are those still getting IP?
Yes.
What?
I learned a lot of crap. I will.
Yeah, like, I don't know if you can still see it, but my eyelids are
You work
Yeah.
Give me my phone.
Today, it's not good. Not today, Sam. Not today, Sam.
And then,
Yeah, let's just go all the way there. Let's go all the way there. I am.
So you're the only one that won this.
Oh, funny. I know, I'm trying to figure out what I'm
I have actual stuff and I've tried all of these but like, you know, I have some it's all break out, I think the skin hurts, like fractures. So I just, I go with dental cleaners now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Save yourself money. It's like making money.
You're right.
All right, well, that's downloading.
Yeah.
Let's see who's here.
I'm here, but I'm going to the bathroom.
Absent.
No.
I'm here, but I'm not here.
Amanda is here. Devin is here. the other Amanda is here. Gage. Which one's Gage? You sit in the back, hiding behind there. Aaron? Weston is there. JT is online.
No, I'm not.
Matthew's there.
I'm also online as well,
I saw that. Noah is here.
because I'm a bad man.
Isaiah? Oh, yep. Sarvi? Brian?
I'm here.
Lunch?
What?
Good luck. Kelvin?
I did go to lunch. I was Chick-fil-A.
Billy?
Yes.
Christopher? Christopher? We got, That's a really funny looking picture there. Franklin. So Christopher going once, Christopher going twice.
Sold.
So that's the only person.
No,
All right, let's stop, please. All right, Brian, how many classes do we have left?
I don't know. I skipped 4 of them. I think we have one tomorrow, one next week with a final. And then we're done, right?
This is the first class, and then there's another class. And then that class.
Really?
So 3 more classes?
It's worse than you
We
think.
got 3 more?
Yeah.
We have February 26th, which is today. We have February 28th, which is Thursday,
Oh, well.
and we have March
Classes.
5th,
So confusing.
which will be the final.
So next Tuesday, then we're done.
That's it. Oh,
What's
yeah.
the final gonna consist of? Us just sitting here and crying?
pretty much.
Okay, cool.
But I'll bring it.
Market trend study.
Somebody have a question?
I know it's in modules 1 through 5.
Yes, so, you too. Don't make me have you sit apart.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right now.
Yes, sir.
One up in high school.
We're talking middle school. No,
Middle school.
Chris is, hey. Tom, Chris. No,
Oh, Chris, yes.
no, Chris isn't here because he ate something bad and he's very sick.
Okay.
He said he sent you an email.
Yeah, maybe.
He's,
Yeah, I think it might be going around.
Oh, I died last week.
I had
Coming back.
the white noise off.
I don't know.
Kidding. Honestly, I'm dead. I paid too much to not be here. So I'm dead.
My soul is dead, but I don't think.
For those of you who are waiting, I'm still waiting for one computer that's got Linux that I can zoom in on so we can share that. Because I can't run the screens on the walls through Linux, I can only run them through the PC that's in the corner. And I can't run Linux on the Zoom machine because that's running the Zoom software. And they said, don't put Linux on. So I didn't. And normally I'm running Linux on this laptop, which refuses to be connected into that meeting. So I don't know what's up. It's one of those days.
What does this mean for us?
I'm hopefully will have, yes?
Dual booting Linux Mint, but somehow it crashed Windows operating system. So I no longer have access to Windows right now.
See, that's why I stopped doing mine when New Resolution.
What did you do?
Dude, I'm telling you.
It happened to mine too. I didn't get it.
Mine was, all these weird things about my resolution went weird, my dates wouldn't change back, my time wouldn't change back.
I don't even
So that's the machine. And it was running Windows something. 10.
Windows 10 home.
Yep. You can download that again if you need to. And then you should have hopefully it's the license on the back here.
Well, I called Dell and they said they have $130 to come fix it.
Oh, well, but I mean, you could reinstall Windows.
Well, I could, but I need a key or something.
Right.
I thought 10, you don't need a key anymore. I thought that they were,
You don't on 10 now.
no, I think they're giving it.
What you can do, you can download something that will pull the key off,
Yes.
install,
I tried that, didn't work.
yeah.
I tried doing a live bootable for Windows 10, didn't work.
I feel like the
I don't know if it's Dell or what, I have no idea.
Yep.
Well,
We'll get Noah to help.
I hope somebody can help me.
No, I mean, obviously not today during
No,
class,
but
but
some other time, yes.
yeah. I mean, the first step would be to just reinstall Windows.
Yeah.
And then, but if Brian might, that was my first thought too, which was to use, I don't remember where Windows keeps the key on.
It's attached to your motherboard and hard drive configuration on their server usually.
Yep. So who knows?
So it has their Mac.
Yeah.
Here it has your Mac address registered to it.
We can see if we can't find that. The other thing is that we'll have to, I can check with the IT department.
Okay.
Believe it or not, that would be another place to go say, see if they can help you. The nonprofit cost of purchasing Windows 10 is we'll upgrade to Pro while you're at it.
Yeah,
It's like
I want
$10.
Yeah, I'm not getting one again.
Can technically install any version, you just can't change your background. But other than
I have
that,
no problem with
you
that.
don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
You get it totally free,
So, but we'll take that,
like from their website.
Right.
Well, you can give it anything, you can't take it back.
Exactly.
I have Linux Mint though. I have Linux Mint.
woohoo!
I wanted that one, but I can't figure out how to get it.
All right, well, and it's a good point, from now on, if you want to dual boot, write down your key first.
Yeah.
I actually kept the email with mine.
You can call the manufacturer and just look up the code and they.
Well, no, you just, well, you
You can also make a short account too, there's like 6 different ways.
The chat function.
Will you be able to get the key if you're not?
I didn't when are you at on the server though? Back in high school. 2 years, so.
well, yeah, so, and I think the problem with these is that they're also, their keys are all managed through the network server on campus. So that's probably why it's not showing. Normally, if you have your own personal copy, you should be able to read your key right there.
Yep.
This one's only showing it. And this one's saying can't activate it because you're not connected to your
So where are you
organization.
looking
So in 10, it'll give you the full key on the settings screen, you need to do a thing, and then it should give you a full key.
You do a thing.
I don't remember what.
Do it then.
I don't
You
remember.
gotta do the thing just right.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Every computer has a different thing.
All right, guys, okay, found out.
Computer's not working.
Yeah, that's for your technical support right there.
The thing.
Technical place.
Never gonna culture is this is called the same.
Just install it.
I don't. That's the department.
It's the EMCC CS 2019.
Take a while.
I don't feel good, but I forget that.
Come on.
I swear to make that. Yes.
What?
Okay, let's try this one more time.
EMCC.
So where did you get that though, in setting?
Settings, system.
You're on page, you're,
About.
you have like a course codes.
Right, and
Course of
Trust
codes.
The time code is trying to more up.
Why isn't this one in the meeting yet?
That's all.
You know,
There's not a computer, they're like, oh, we can
thank you for your patience. I'm getting so tired of this one.
You could have also, you could go through your, do you have a Microsoft account? I do. It might be through that.
Yay!
Because mine says it's activated, digital, with a digital license linked to my Microsoft account. I know that, but you also need a key for software that comes separately.
All right. Now this one does. Well, I can hear my echo now.
I just came up before the second.
You were doing that, like, she was dying.
I was dying. Exactly.
You didn't even have to do pictures.
Yeah.
You really bored. You go outside or were you just?
Okay. Somebody says,
You figured it out, right?
Hmm?
The thing I told you about.
I attempted it, yeah. I tried to search, to see like the way that you, what was the command that you had used?
Nano.
What was it?
Nano. You have to install it first, and then they'll do the whole website thing for you.
I didn't go on way to figure. I forgot what the,
all right, somebody in here has not muted their connection to the class, so they look like they're almost all muted.
Matthew?
Do I actually have it on?
Or
He's the one that doesn't have the, see, he doesn't have his little thing on.
Matthew.
I'll be right. I'm gonna leave it join.
well, for whatever reason, I don't know, two of these machines won't connect, this one will, but I can't put it up on those three screens. How many of you were logged in? Just a half of you.
Me.
I know the ones online.
I specifically told it to not have my audio.
Anybody have any clues why is this network hate me today?
I don't know, Tom.
Because it's run by a state code.
Well,
Because you put Linux on everything.
Inside the department.
Because you put Linux on everything and now you have to follow up.
State of Maine.
Really, because from what I'm hearing, you've got a lot of questions.
yeah, no, I just haven't started. All right, so I can't waste any more time, so we're gonna do it the old fashioned way. We're gonna use hand puppets.
Get the light out.
If you're online, I can show you, and actually any of these computers in here, you may, if you wanna log in and connect to the Zoom meeting, which I'll write the Zoom code up on the board there.
I quite imagine you were like.
Who's got it handy?
I was in my.
I did. 9, 6, 3, Sorry.
The invite meeting is
763.
763-269.
269.
Yeah, 192.
192. So if you want to connect in so you can watch the screen, just remember to mute it all. Because the two ones I have to display with both, neither one of them are connected. I can connect with this one, but I can't connect that one. I mean, the one that displays it on the screens on the monitor won't connect to my Zoom class. Why? You got me. My guess is if I go and reinstall Zoom, it'll probably come back. Maybe there's been an update that has snafu'd it. It was working last class.
It was, I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, so don't ask me. I got no help for you. And it's not class not found, it's not anything else, it's Zoom is failing to even launch. And I could reboot that machine, but yeah, they just got it set up to do those displays using IP. So they're actually streaming over the internet to these monitors. And I haven't even looked at the system yet, and my luck is in rebooting, I would cancel that connection and I'd have to restart it, and I wouldn't know how.
How does that work? So you're saying this is just
That's
a video feed?
The ones on the wall are video feed off of this one right here. No HDMI cables required. Well,
Yeah. Where's it?
Oh,
these are all ones. Those are all ones. It makes a bit worse.
They're not a screen, it's a computer.
Let's make a list of what people want to cover, because I know you had some questions. Questions?
I think it's mandatory.
What do I want to cover?
Yes.
I want to know what you want for the test tomorrow. Yeah, I want to know what you want for the test next week.
All right, so on the test,
Yes.
anything from mods week 1 to 5.
What is the date for it again?
I just erased it.
I'm sorry, my brain is small.
March 6th, next Tuesday.
Okay.
It's coming right up.
I mean, you're gonna exhibit this to the command.
So we're not going past 5?
No.
Is this like a paper type test?
I am going to spend some time this week to see if I can get the online system to accept it as I, modify it, go through it. I know I could with the Cengate. That was the,
My UCC.
no, the one we used last semester for, anyway.
But it's not a virtual machine. It's just answering questions.
I believe so.
It's a virtual machine, probably the same.
I heard that.
Then I guess we'll have virtual machines then.
You got the kid.
No, I mean, a good example would be, all right, you want to have a list of all of the files in, the following directory, which command would be most appropriate? And, and I'll probably give you a few, is it gonna be grep? Probably not. Is it gonna be find? I don't think so. Is it gonna be ls?
Yes.
Maybe.
Like I have that like next to it.
Well, some of the commands that you really need to know would be the list command. What do we got? Change directory, right? You've got grep. Find would be a good one, right? Because it's one of the most common, I would not be surprised if I asked you, how would you use the list command to list all of the files in the directory, including the hidden ones?
// the dot.
good question to go look up. But no, yeah, I mean, it's usually this. The dot would include, I mean, so, what is it? A, right? Lists all the
Was
files.
it capital A? Or was it small a?
It was small.
But that doesn't include hidden files if it doesn't have the dot.
See, now I'm gonna have to go back and look. I mean, I don't use it every day either, but, horrible. I would tell you what, you can make one whole page of cheat notes.
Okay.
So was that your question?
Yeah, I was asking if we use notes.
So that would be my next question.
Everybody but Zardy can have notes.
I,
Shit ton of notes.
So, will you get noticed?
You can have a page of notes.
That page,
That's right.
How big is the page on it? So I can write it down.
An 8.5 by 11.
A page of notes for the CompTIA test?
No, for the final.
This class does not lead to a CompTIA exam.
no class we've taken
That was
is like,
passed.
no class we've taken is like a CompTIA.
What's my name? What's my name?
That's funny.
That's about as far as we get. I mean, no, I mean, so that's, hey, Billy, and if you want to talk with me, you too, Devin. Hi. So having an understanding of some basic commands that people use all the time. Change directory. How about making a directory?
I mean,
Yeah, you know, and did we not pass out a sheet at the beginning that had like a list of some of those on it?
Yeah.
They're also, go online, simple Linux command, you know, boom, oh, look, there's a list. And so you should have a rudimentary understanding of those. It would be totally feasible for me to ask for you to list at least 2 or 3 different distros of Linux. Who can name some? Nib is one.
Fedora and Red Hat.
Fedora, Red Hat.
I was about to say Ubuntu.
And Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
And Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
How do you pronounce
Huh?
It's not important.
Sometimes.
I mean, I have no idea how you pronounce it.
Linux.
Am I wrong?
You're probably wrong.
Just Linux? Yeah, just Linux. I mean, it's all board. Yeah, you know, it's like list 30 of the most popular distros for Linux. I think that's reasonable.
that's 30.
No, I mean, you should be able to list it too. Now, I also can imagine asking you to write a simple script to do something like outputting to a file one of these simple commands. Okay, so any command that you have, how do we output it to a file?
Bake the file.
Great. Well, no, you can just do this.
That's what we did class earlier, right?
There, I just made a file. When I execute that command by hitting return, right there, you know, this is on the command line, I'm going to produce a list, and instead of displaying it on the screen, it's going to put it to a file. That's how we did the HTML too, except we made it, and you can put anything you want after the dot. It's just that the convention is what you're shaking your head.
I just didn't understand that HTML thing. I mean, I made an HTML, I made a whole website with you know, how did I get HTML?
Right.
But I missed the whole, just everything makes sense.
I failed that class, so I did my final.
I mean, the body, you open it, you enter it, it's very logical, I missed that. I don't feel like Linux is like, I'm reaching right now.
All right, so who successfully wrote their HTML project?
I think I did, but I'm not sure.
So, and I realize it's up on this one.
I personally had a hard time trying to get it into the BIOS and try to get the virtual thing working up till this weekend.
Okay. So we're gonna go into. Where's I forget, what's the equivalent of Notepad? Notepad.
I don't know, I just need to go in and put Nano and just open up the text window. What in the terminal, right?
Well, no, I wanna. I'm pretty sure the direction said you didn't have to.
Graphics tab?
No.
Well, I know I just be leave off this window. Yeah, we can save it. You have to be able to save it as a text file, not as a fancier thing. Yeah. Yeah, I know there was. I'm just because I'm not on my computer, it's like.
Where did you right click on that? Right here, document. I did document.
Where is it?
On the document.
Oh,
I like works. One second. No.
all right. So to go back to your question, because it sounded like Amanda Diaz, you may have been trying to edit this in a terminal. No requirement for that. I would edit it in a regular document like this.
Yeah, I opened the document through the terminal.
Through Nano or through?
I forgot. Oh, I do have the screenshots of it.
It's okay.
So we wouldn't, so that's, I guess, what I was getting, I thought we would just go here and put in Nano. And then that opens up your text file.
Yep.
Right? So this is the thing. So I created everything in here, but I don't know how to
Okay.
get it.
So, did you put in your documents?
All right. So this is. Let
No,
me.
because when I go to save it, I guess I don't get that.
Okay. Let me walk through the steps here real quick. Give me a command for.
So Nano is where I want to be?
I would not use Nano. You could use Nano.
Okay, so what would you use?
Give me a command line.
I put get it. Oh, well, GEDIT. I don't know how it's pronounced. And then I entered the HTML code in between echo and the freaking
Okay.
parentheses.
Like, double tag.
I want something simpler. Yes.
All right, so I did Nano, and it literally, no, it did everything for me. All you had to do is do CD desktop, go there. Did you Nano space website name .html, bring up the thing. You put wording into your website, and just do Control X, and I'll save it. And then you can open it back up if you go into Files, Desktop.
Right.
Everything for me. No one simple thing.
I'm trying to think. I don't have it open. What's remember we were using we were pulling information out of the settings on your computer so that you could show what like your current user was or I need more computers like me. What Chrome? So let's just say it's not a great example, but we want to make an HTML file. So we're going to do ls dash I don't know what al and we're going to output it to Tom's .html. So here we have a legitimate command. The command is being output to a text file. That text file is toms.html. Now, I could do that simple, that one single line in a terminal. So I can go here, terminal, see where I am first. ls dash al, and I got a nice long list. So now what I'm going to do is ls dash al, and output it to Tom's HTML. It does that. Now I'm going to go and totally leave the terminal. I'm going to go over to my file manager. There is my HTML. I'm going to open it, which it opens in a browser because it has an HTML file extension. So I'm going to open it up in Firefox. It's not a very pretty one, is it? So if I wanted something that was a little cleaner, trying to remember the ls commands now. One of the ls commands says to use it as a column list rather than this kind of a list, so that each line would come out on its own. Who knows what that is? Anybody off the top of their head? Somebody pull out man for list. And so we want the one that tells it to. Did you do man ls?
What are we looking for?
I'm looking for the one that is the go up.
Is it capital C?
The capital C.
Yeah.
Try that. Easy enough to test. We'll just go over here and do ls dash al capital C. Yeah. So I mean that gives us. So if we do list dash a, we get all the files. That's actually not any different than that. We do list dash l, we get all the information for the file. We do ls dash al, we get all the files in full detail. And we do ls dash c, ls dash, oh, sorry. We don't get it. Well, okay. The only difference between little c but capital C is
The order it prints?
is the order it prints
Yeah, I
in.
noticed that.
So I'm not sure that's the one. So we man ls. So A is for all. Capital A is for almost all. We don't want block size, ignore backups. Okay, so capital C should have been list entries by columns, but it doesn't seem to work well with if you've also used the A or the L, with the L where you want the long list and to have it do it by columns. I close this, minimize. Great. So if I do ls dash c to toms.html, and now flip back over to my here again, click it. Now it looks like it's somewhere. Delete. Back again. There. So that's all it takes to make a that. Now we can append a file, and All right, somebody look, see if you can find the command to append to a file.
And the file.
Right, so you're gonna add to a file. Because what we wanna do is we wanna build that HTML file. Yes,
Isn't it cat?
cat?
Yeah.
Right, because that's gonna, so if we go, well, let me delete that. So we do command cat. Concatenates files and prints on the standard output, but we can tell it to print to a different output. Cat. Yeah, I'm trying to think of this as.
Once you put cat and you put in, how do you get back out of it?
You mean van?
No, like see how it's that. I just keep it, it'll just keep.
We hit the escape button. Control C.
There it is, okay. Can you see that? Get that right.
All right, I'm gonna go where I would recommend you going to as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, appending file in Linux command or terminal.
Wasn't it touch or something?
Yeah. How do I append text to a file?
I gave you extra money for the delivery.
Get a Grubhub to bring you something here.
I only bring a
Do we
McDonald's.
have that here?
I don't know.
Yeah, it only goes to Hogan Road, McDonald's, that's it.
Alright, everybody, we're all gonna split like 15 large fries from McDonald's right now.
Yeah, so
Can we get some, can we?
I don't like it either, but it's the only chance to get it, the only option.
All right,
So there's a Bible, I'll do it.
so we can echo a line to the file using the -n new line command. So that'll add a new line to the file. So the reason I'm saying this is now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. Clear. So I'm going to go to delete. Let me make sure I delete my. I just want to get rid of the Tom. Okay. So I'm going to go here and so we're going to echo I'm going to echo that to Tom's.html. Oops, what else am I going to need? The 2 arrows. And now I'm going to echo new line. And I send that also to Tom's HTML. And I'm going to do echo -n/b. Oops, sorry. To Tom's HTML. And last thing I'm going to do is not bolded. HTML. So there, we've got 4 lines. This is what I was saying. I'll be embarrassed in a second because it won't be there. But if I now go and look at Tom's HTML, so those 4 lines are right there. The only thing I didn't put in was a carriage return. I'll try to go show it, but, so what you have is hello there, and what I did, where's my stupid marker? The 4 lines were this. Bold. In HTML, what's that do? Turns on the bold. Next line was hello there. Next line was turning off the bold. And the last one was not bold. And in front of each one of these, I did echo. And where it was going to be sent to. Echo, echo, echo. Now, the first one did not have the -n, because we wanted it to be a new file. But the other ones, we wanted it to be a new line on that file. One will overwrite what's there and one will append to it. That makes sense? Should.
So the small n append or rewrite?
Right, if you look under man for echo, you would see -n means to add a new line to wherever you are outputting it to. Remember, without this little arrow Tom's HTML, this is all just going to be showing on the screen. That's all the echo does. But by adding this right here, we are outputting that echo to a file. So this is a wicked simple HTML, ready to run thing, but all it does, in this case, it spelled out hello there in bold, and then it immediately said not bold. So the parts that I would want to do is I would want it to be a new line, and I'm trying to remember what a new line. What's the new line for HTML?
Doc type, what do you mean?
If you're typing in code for an HTML file, what forces you to a new line?
BR.
Yeah.
So what I would have wanted to do is maybe hello there, and then, and these were all in quotes. I could have done, changed this to BR for a new, actually it wouldn't matter which order it's in, and end the bold. And that would have forced it to a new line and stop the bold. This is where, now, I know I should go open up the assignment for doing the HTML page. Who can open, somebody open it up for me. And what I want is the command to get information out of your system file. It was in there. Sorry, I don't have it memorized. Anybody online can do it too.
And my existence Linux, what's it in, course?
Well, it would have been a homework assignment for today. There were 2 of them, but one of them was making your HTML. Yeah.
You can turn in.
There was.
Use the following to generate an HTML file that you're looking for?
Oh, yeah, no, this one, it's gone now because it's past the time.
Is that what you're looking for? File name, last name, system, page.
It's not showing.
Because that's all I found in the instructions.
No.
Oh wait, maybe it'll let me in this way.
Would it be back over here?
I turned mine in, but you're saying it's
There was no way to turn this, was there?
No, the page wasn't complete, so none of us could turn it in.
Well, the one for the article you can turn in.
Yeah, I got that one, but I couldn't.
But I couldn't get the other one.
I didn't turn it the first time.
It's not opening.
I was able to turn in the article, but
I wouldn't let me turn it in.
Yeah, same.
Oh, mine turned in. I think mine turned in just fine. I don't know. I turned it in like that.
but the winter break homework 2 is the one that doesn't.
Yeah, that one you can't really turn that one in.
I'm so mad.
It says assignment not complete. Faculty needs to complete this. Oh, sorry, nobody told me. I messed it up.
So are we gonna be
Oh, here we
able to turn
go.
on both then?
What did you want off of it?
It wouldn't let me turn it in first.
No, we're looking for.
Whoa.
I've got the directions here. The Linux thing?
So
I went on there to go.
what we did the last class was we looked at how you could pull information directly out of your system file that explained who was the current user, what was your current directory, things like that. And the whole object, and there was a link to a website that even took you through all the steps.
Yes.
Yes. So maybe I didn't write it down, maybe it was just in that set of directions.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find that, give me a second, because I. Linux, okay. Yeah, it says, this homework is open, but it has not been
Don't
built.
mention it, or he can't say no.
Oh.
I can't see.
I'm on the homework if you want to come look at the commands that they have right here.
Yeah, let me take a look. All right, so.
There might be at the top too. You can see.
It's disaster.
So yeah, I was looking at things like your profile. So if we went to,
I like the job.
all right. That's too many.
BI
Sorry, what?
Emacs, Nano, get it in T right, or the TUS, for the editor.
Oh, well. No, it was probably on the next set, if you went to next. Yes.
So are you gonna reopen the assignments? One of the last one.
No, I can reopen them. So,
Yeah, but did you need anything from it, or was it just an exercise you were supposed to do? I mean, was it like, because on the article, there was answers and stuff to answer, but at least it didn't,
now I'm gonna have to go look.
because there wasn't anything.
Yeah.
So it was, I just thought it was something you wanted to try to do it, so.
Yeah, well, you can see to make a file is really easy.
Yeah, now that I'm getting it, right, yeah.
I thought I had
Something that we were gonna give you as a result or something.
Right, so what I had wanted, and I will fix it tonight before I go home. What I wanted was you to be able to build, not in necessarily VI or Nano, but you could use create a new blank text document. It's a lot easier to type it in there and do that, but save it as, Amanda's HTML file, whatever you want to call it. And the goal was to format it with just a few things, but also to pull information out of your user profile on your computer, which one of those pages, if you went through that, tells you how to do that.
Those pages were vague. I mean, they were
They were a piece of cake.
yeah, they were like, oh, boom, hey, you're just supposed to be here, just like my mouth was. Oh, and there's 7 steps missing. But you should know that.
Well, I don't know, I thought they were pretty straightforward. But I'll have to go back and take a look. Obviously, if it wasn't there and I never managed to put it online, but the goal was, and I'm sorry I can't remember it off the top of my head. I've got to go back and look. So it's kind of like a combination of this, but someplace in the middle, you might, you're going to use one of the find or a grep kind of commands to find out who the current user is or what users are there on your computer. That computer, this one right here has got, T. Bickford or T. Bickford, and Bob Barker. Because I don't know, I just needed a name one day when I put in somebody else. So I could make a, echo, and then, have users on, this computer, and then, output it to the file, and then echo, but then you would need the command that would list those users. Or you would just have the whole command,
So then it would be echo /NLS
Right.
users?
Right. And I've got to go find that command because I don't remember off the top of my head. So basically what you're going to do is, you're going to be find the users, which was one of the steps in what was on that website. How do you find, basically you're opening up the profile page, but you can get the computer to do that. You don't need to go find the profile page and open it up. So, man, you just look so downtrodden. I mean, usually I don't meet students until late in the semester. Oh wait, it's almost done.
It's just, basically I can't work on anything that's not here because I'm not gonna shatter my computer at this point. So, I mean, everything that I can look up online is great, but I'm not putting Linux on the skin.
That's fine, but these computers are all available. This should not take long to do.
So,
And you could write this in Notepad.
right, on my regular one. Yeah,
You're just
okay.
gonna have to, either email it to yourself and then open up an email client and download it, or put it on a thumb drive and get it off the thumb drive. So all of this on here, we were saving it as an HTML file. You could open up Notepad on any computer anywhere and save it. I'm just saying that's a lot easier to edit than it is to edit it in the VI or the Nano editors. But if you want to use Nano, that's better than VI. If you want to use VI, it's a pain. Why would you ever use VI? You might be on a computer that simply has nothing.
I use VI for the,
No.
sending email.
Yep. Oh, well, and I mean, it is used. Huh? Oh, yeah. That's probably why I couldn't get this one. Okay. Trying to think of, don't give it up, Amanda. Don't give it up. So, the other homework assignment, who, hopefully you all had found an article. So, what'd you find an article on?
Task management apps for Linux.
Okay. And so it was an article, kind of like a list article that was to the
Such their purposes or what they can do and the cultures.
Yeah.
Mine was over the relationship with Red Hat and Fedora. They interact with the two. Basically,
Sounds like a royal wedding getting ready to happen.
basically, it said the Red Hat Enterprise was mainly for companies and hospitals for a more secure network. And Fedora is more like community-based, and Red Hat relied on Fedora users as like a code perfect incubator, right?
Yeah.
Described in the article.
And then if it works well in Fedora, they siphon it off to, or they copy it.
Yeah, they got it.
I'm sorry, Fedora, you can no longer use this really cool app because we've got it.
Yeah, that's basically how it
Yeah,
describes.
well, that's good. Weston?
I'm kind of looking for one right now.
Okay,
Can you come back to me?
all right.
I have an idea of what I want to do.
So mine was just about IBM acquiring Red Hat.
Yep.
That was mine.
So why did they acquire Red Hat?
Cloud computing. So,
So was it for their own internal uses or?
yeah, they wanted to distribute their own version of cloud computing, compete with Amazon, Google, kind of. They see where the market's heading and then they're doing investment in Red Hat.
So they'll be rolling out Red Hat critters and cool.
They should find out Christmas later this year, I guess.
Aaron?
So my article is about all the things that happened since 2018 and then the future of it. So basically, some of the big things that happened were that Steam allowed now Linux users to have more available games that Windows had.
Yep.
Basically, and then purchased Red Hat by IBM, and then had just a whole bunch of different big accomplishments and some things that happened.
Yep. I mean, believe it or not, the inclusion of Steam was huge because up until that point, who's a lot of the non-business client market in computers? I mean, you have phones, there's the whole phone market, which, believe it or not, is already mostly Linux anyway. But then you've got people that like to play games, which is a big market in computers. And yet, up until the ability to play a decent computer game in Linux was not very appealing to a lot of that gaming community. As soon as Steam opened up and you start to have a plethora of computer games available, at least that market could take it seriously, even though some of the highest end games haven't yet been ported over to the Linux environment. We're seeing every year that goes by, more and more gaming is occurring in the Steam-like environment rather than buy a disk, put it in your computer. So if you can support that through a computer that's running Linux, then the user is happy either way. Plus, the Linux computer, if it's an apples to apples, okay, we'll leave Apple out of it. If it's an orange to orange comparison, if you're running this computer with Steam under Windows 10 and this computer running Steam under Linux, which one has less overhead? The Linux version does, which means you have more available for your actual gaming, frame rate, and all that.
Epic Games, another launcher, actually is coming out with Linux support as well. And they have a bunch of games.
Yep. I mean, it's not going away.
The thing is too, now with cloud gaming, so there are new startup companies that are building that to scale where they actually function properly. So they're not like super laggy. And if they can use Linux, and they did distribution, if they can use a free distribution right on Linux, because Linux is free anyway, they can drive costs down to consumers, like people don't have to buy a gaming computer.
True. Who's hiding in the background? Did you get an article?
I did.
Amanda? Billy, Brian, Amanda, sorry.
It was about installing Chrome on Ubuntu because Firefox is very popular. What?
No, I had, or was gonna, it was one of his.
It was on a Chromebook though.
Oh, on a Chromebook.
Install
Oh.
web browser.
Well, the application, like the web browser, and how to do it through the terminal,
Yep.
and then I forget the other way. But yeah,
Will you take it to, Best Buy and have the kids do it there?
no, that's money.
It's also not recommended. No, how about
They're
you?
really well.
I did mine on Kadachi, which is a distro that came out, and it's not really just another distro because it's like the most bleeding edge, privacy oriented distro currently, and it does stuff like you can increase. Well, first of all, everything is encrypted. Everything that you send is encrypted. Everything is forced through a VPN, regardless. It's mostly live booted from a USB, so whenever you end the session, it completely wipes any trace if you were ever even on that terminal or on that computer. It has super easy tools for like just easily being able to like increase encryption. They're all just like hotbar at the bottom to just increase encryption, or you can check the connection of different VPNs, and it's just super.
What is Kadachi?
Kadachi. Kadachi. So what you would do is you would take that and then you have a USB. You'd be able to live boot anywhere and you have like the utmost privacy. It also uses DuckDuckGo rather than Google.
So like when I want to steal documents from Bangor Savings, I can use that.
Yeah, if you were ever to hack on anything, you would use that. And
Yeah.
you would primarily go to a computer that's not yours, and you would be fine.
Oh yeah.
So everybody, let's
Perfect.
do some damage.
Password secure your BIOS.
Let's make Bangor a wasteland.
There you go.
This is work.
It already is with the roads, they're like.
I know, right?
I think that's awesome.
Really would be.
I'm just waiting for the news. Mrs. Orcutt was arrested, mother of Noah, but they're not sure. Apparently Mrs. Orcutt hacked into Bangor Savings Bank and took $300 million.
That would be me as soon as they arrest me. It's my mom.
See?
It's my mom.
I got my.
Don't let her fool you. Just because she can bake, cookies doesn't mean she doesn't know how to hack the world. Anyway, Matthew, do you have an article?
About Friends 5's public friends.
Sorry.
The all-in-one messaging program from Linux.
Okay. Cool. So it does everything. Can you text from there?
You can use all of your messaging apps from Skype to Discord, that sort of thing.
Yep.
All in one window.
Kind of like that movies all together kind of platform.
Yeah.
Connect all of your different things and have it all in one place.
No, I'm pretty sure you could technically if you set it up.
Brian?
Yeah, I got an article for you. I hate Apple. Article is the end of Apple on Forbes. What does that mean? Because Apple's going to be gone eventually, and we're going to use Linux more. What does this step in? Boom, that's relatable. You just screw Apple.
Apple's going to buy Linux. Oh, wait.
Yeah, okay.
Wait, can I buy Linux? It's open source.
I just wanted to brag about how much Apple was screwed and how Apple sucks. Everybody who works there is dumb. And it's a terrible product. Don't run
Didn't
it.
you used to work for them?
No, I worked at a third-party
Samsung.
company that supported it.
Oh,
I
okay.
worked for Samsung.
Yeah.
And the iPhone 10 has $279 to make. They sell it for $4 grand. It's the stupidest thing ever. It's $279 to make that freaking phone.
It's like Beat headphones. Beats are nuts. Beats are like $12.
Yeah, Beats are like crap.
They're so expensive. They're so expensive. Beats. Yeah, Beats headphones. You ever see something like that?
I was just thinking of a bunch of beats you buy at Apple.
Yeah, no, Beats are the vegetable, absolutely.
I mean, I thought those $10 headphones you buy at Walmart had a markup to it.
Yeah.
Any good amount of is the man.
I thought an
They are.
article,
Hold on.
my article was about changing from Windows to Linux and how it's so much, such an advantage. You don't have to do the licensing of the software doesn't exist. So you don't have to worry about doing all the licensing and whatnot when you download the new software. The updates are all at once because it's one patch that comes in whenever there's a patch. You don't have to do any patching or anything on your software because it's all at once. Linux community and the fact that you have basically a huge source of customer service through the community for what you might need. These are all the advantages that you offer. I'm just regurgitating what you asked for.
Oh, okay.
I'm leaving it into it.
Was this homework?
Yes, it
Was
was.
this homework? I read something like 3 weeks ago. I read the article 3 weeks ago.
Well, so you should go log into my EMCC's.
Yeah, just got homework.
EDU
I got it.
and answer the questions.
So like most like public libraries,
Now I got
computers,
stuff.
if you were to put a USB, can you boot from those on those computers? Like they can't really lock you out of that, can you?
They can't. You can,
Just disable BIOS, I guess.
hey, folks, if you're not in this discussion, you shouldn't be talking. How's that? So the question was, can you walk into any computer, throw in a thumb drive and boot to another?
Primarily like a library or something.
Yep. And the answer is probably, unless they've taken the steps. The way they come out of the box, the answer would be yes. Because the BIOSes on computers are not locked down when you buy the computer initially. Because if they did, then when Mrs. Orcott got her new computer and she's wondering why nothing works, because everything came locked down. Whereas if you're in a setting like a school, a hospital, a bank, then the smart thing for them to do is to go into BIOS where you have actual administrators who are going to remember the administrator passcodes to the BIOS so that nobody can hack the BIOS.
Yes.
Then what you would do is you'd go into the boot options and disable the option to boot from a thumb drive.
Yeah.
Do
or
a lot of
just
public
encrypt your
libraries
BIOS.
take that step, or
Huh?
do a lot of public libraries actually take that step, or?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
I mean, technically, you should not have been able to boot here from a live boot, but you could.
Yeah.
Yes.
So put a password on your BIOS.
Yes.
Right, so you can you pick that? How do you?
There we go. All right. Can we also
That's important.
I want more money than I have now. Can you help me out?
I need this money in this time, go to this.
So the answer to that question is I've never had to do it, but in theory,
Yes,
and I
yours.
think I want to say you have to already be into the BIOS to make this possible, which would eliminate that option.
Yes.
But you can reflash BIOS.
Yes.
And that would be the way you wipe out whatever's already in BIOS. But I think you have to already be in to reflash the BIOS. What?
You use like a dictionary. BIOS using software.
I don't believe so.
Or
The
log
problem
out.
with BIOS is that it's the BIOS.
So I know that, but
Yeah.
the password. There we go.
It doesn't really interact with third-party software.
Yeah.
Or like
Right, but when
language, really.
they would be, unless it was that worm that they talked about that was in the boot, right?
Well, with AI though,
Yeah, you
if
have,
you could graphically output the content of the screen, I'm serious. So it understands whether it accepts the password or not, right? And then have a USB device, like right, that's a keystroke.
Right.
The dictionary software built in. Theoretically, you could get in.
Yes, with an artificially intelligent robot, you could probably have.
Without a robot. Think about it though.
well, actually, just
It's easy, right?
you could just do that with one stroke monitor anyway.
Right, you get yes,
So that doesn't require an AI or AI.
AI, right, see, I was thinking of a couple people.
Anyway, what was your question? What was your logical question before Brian?
We studied on
bugs and different things.
Oh, yes.
So there's a Buddha virus, right?
Yes.
So if you, that mimics or mirrors your system, so would you be able to do it on something like that?
No, well, so those viruses don't go into the BIOS, they go into the Windows boot.
I got it.
So
It's not pre-Windows boot though in BIOS.
right, you go from BIOS calls out the Windows boot sequence.
Okay. And that's where those are attached.
It is certainly one place, and to get
Okay.
rid of those, you have to not boot to Windows.
Okay.
And so they have either, nowadays it would be a thumb drive, you boot to a thumb drive which has both an operating system on it and the cleaning requirements to remove everything from the boot sequence. It's not trivial, and it's because you can't start up Windows and then run Norton antivirus.
No, it's already, right.
Well, and they usually have code to prevent you from them doing that. They could literally go in and put some of that code in an area of a hard drive that's not registered with, the file allocation system. And so when you're sweeping the files to find things that aren't supposed to be there, you don't even know it's not there because it's not listed in the file. I mean, it's all sorts of weird and esoteric things that it's not my profession.
Yeah.
I don't do that for a living, so I don't really pay attention to that.
Super exciting though.
Yeah. Yes, Kevin.
So if we hack into their system, or it turns out, all right, say that
Everybody here,
if we restart it and it keeps going and it stays on, we then open up their own BIOS from the restart and then get into their system.
But
No,
if you're remote,
So it's nobody's BIOS. Well, I should take that back. With Windows 10 and I think Windows 8, for the first time, there is some ability to reach backwards into BIOS from a running operating system to change some of the settings. You're not changing the BIOS. You're changing some of the settings in the BIOS, like maybe the boot order.
Or enabling it. So if it was, that would be the way to do it.
so then if you
Everybody
have
taking notes?
enabled physical access to it, then the physical
Yes.
access would be already set up that you could pop in the thumb drive because you had gotten in there and organized with it.
I figured out how to do it.
Because I mean,
Well-
you still need the physical ability to put the.
If you were in Windows 10,
Yeah.
and there was a feature, and I don't remember which features were allowed. Let's say one of them is enabling a boot from a thumb drive.
Okay,
It would not allow you to do that unless you already had admin permission,
gotcha.
which if it was your computer, you already do. If you're at the library and you're on a general user, then unless it's been totally poorly set up, which is always possible, then you're gonna go try to do something like that, and it's gonna say, please enter the admin password. And it'll be a Windows admin password. And it will be that Windows admin password which will do a handshake, which allows it to then change a BIOS setting at some point. So the Windows keeps an admin and other passwords totally separate than BIOS, which has or has not got passwords. Most people will tell you never put a password on your BIOS unless you're in a place that's got a hierarchy of an IT department or something like that, because it really is not recoverable. Because if you our admin person, put admin passwords on all the computers. Only Frank, the admin guy, knows what that password is, and he just passed away from a heart attack.
Uh-huh.
You can't get into those without the password to change the password. And so your only option is to replace the computers or the motherboards. So that's why people say, you don't need to put a password on your BIOS. Don't put a password on your BIOS, because you'll lose it and you're screwed. I mean, there's just not anything you can do to,
What if you hard link through like your computer through a server to theirs and then you restart it, then could you technically get fully into their system after you have like changed the boot order so it boots from your computer?
Well, I mean, you can always take, you can always,
I'm just curious,
but I know
I'm
he
just
did
asking
something.
a general question.
I mean, you can always take a hard drive out of somebody's, computer. And you can always take a hard drive out of a computer and connect it to another computer. So you have a hard drive that has nothing to do with it's no longer running the operating system. It is just a repository of files. On that, just as we've been talking about here, there are folders that say users, user, debit, and all of your files are on there. They are encrypted using whatever the operating system standard encryption device is. Because almost every operating system now encrypts stuff on there, requires you to log in and have access to that. If you're an administrator who specializes in recovering of files off of crashed hard drives or crashed systems, there are a set of tools that you can use to do that. I've never done it. Once we sent a hard drive out that had stuff on it that we were not able to recover, sent it to a place in Canada that specializes in it.
Linus Tech Tips did a video on it.
Yeah, and as it is, it's not easy. And it's not
really
easy
hard.
for a number of reasons. Because if it's a hard drive failure, in this case, the system board on the hard drive had failed. They could not find a duplicate controller. This is probably a 6-year-old hard drive kind of thing, and it had failed. It mostly just had hard archive stuff on it, but we wanted it back. We figured it was worth a couple $100 to send out to Canada. After we tried locally to bring it back. And they looked at all the components, because the motor could have gone, the controller could have gone, the head could go. Because if the head goes, chances are you just totally trash the disk, because it'll mar it up, scar it up, and just kill it. But if the motor dies, well, can I rebuild it with a new motor? If the control board that runs the thing dies, can I replace that? But let's say we're Western Digital and we make hard drives. Even if you have a 1 terabyte Western Digital silver brand, Aardvark 3 hard drive, between when they started making it in 2018 and the current February 2019, they've already used 20 different control boards for that. Now go 6 years in the future, and you're looking back at those 20 control boards that were around, can you find one? Because they haven't made them in 6 years. So you have to find that exact same model, not just the model number, but the little special numbers that come after it so they can identify it. And then they have to open up, they find one that's just like yours, they open it up, they pull out the board, and nope, the serial numbers aren't, the same batch. Because if they're not exactly the same, the way they read, write, and manage the hard drive disks is different. And so they can't reboot your hard drive and read the information off it, assuming that the information is still there. Then you get into the encryption issue. Do you have the username and password for the material that you wanted to pull off of that, which is probably going to be required for you to be able to de-encrypt it. If you don't, then I'm sure they have other ways that NSA does all the time, but which is not available to Kelvin here, who's already dreaming about how he's going to hack into NORAD. So
basically, you just need to do some scouting for the general public.
Yeah, if you can't get the encryption key, you can get like a program that can force it, but that takes forever.
Right, which is why they use
Depending on how much
powerful computers for that.
What's funny? In every spy movie, they always run Linux.
I was watching that video.
Yeah, that's real. That's realistic.
He's literally running Mint. It's awesome. I love when he pulls up his thing and Mint's in the background.
Yeah.
All right. So I will fix the homework assignment for the HTML requirement. If you have not finished and done your homework for the article,
No, I'm
I
not.
did mine.
I don't do my homework. When you get on my top.
zero. Which one of us will learn first? That's the question.
What are you talking about?
So do I have to wait until tonight to go?
It's like a consumer chicken.
Or is it gonna be right on?
Which one, the one we did, and I'll update. My apologies if it wasn't ready. I don't know if anybody had piped up and said, you know, there's nothing in there, but I'll fix that. And I'll extend the time until Thursday, because I'm not adding any new homework. But a lot of you haven't done the labs and the quizzes for 1 through 5, so you.
No, I thought that was off.
Yeah,
You want to pass.
I'm pretty sure the answer is no. Yes.
I did find it.
Huh?
I did find it. So I
Okay. Yeah, so it's, was that one still, I think it's still open. Well, it's probably open with late, but I'll make sure it's still open. Anything else?
That was easy.
It was so.
All right. Sorry about all the technology issues, because,
Wait, what was the computer science department?
sorry, what?
What was the date of the final? You said
Who
you
can
just
tell her?
erased it. But you-
March 5th.
March
Next week.
Next Tuesday.
No. No.
Yes.
I'm calling out of work. Can I have a teacher's note?
They should pay me to
Well,
come in.
it'll just be in class, just like right now.
And technically, I'm supposed to be at work.
No, I mean for work.
Tuesday and come back.
I know, tell me that I can't be there.
You're right, both.
But you're normally here on Tuesday.
No, I mean for the weekend, because I gotta study.
No, I didn't know.
All right.
I'm gonna have a meltdown.
All right. Let's go.
Oh, no.
I'm gonna call all of you.
That is that.
Go ahead,
You
Dean.
little bitches. Amanda ain't ever coming
No,
back.
no, it's my good bitch. Hello, my good bitch.
Will the test be in class or online?
You know,
Find everybody
I will exchange because I have asked 3 times.
you know, it's not that there are changes that have gone on here.
I can't have anything updated. It's just
Is anybody going on the program after this one?
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna do that?
I'm on
No, yeah, no, I'm with my, that's, yeah. You are too?
Yep.
Okay.
I have next week. I got so much.
Bye-bye.
So you don't have a general, you're already general.
I've got this week. That's how it's up.
Hey, go on Discord and see.
So you're not gonna come back
All
and
right.
say those words?
I tagged you.
So on that one, my desktop is kind of dead at the moment.
Oh, why?
I got to learn a new system. Yeah. It's a hard drive issue. I'll just redo the hard drives in the OS.
Is it because of this one?
You're getting that now.
No, it wasn't this class.
And like I said,
I don't know.
after next week,
It is
all
6 years old, so.
I'm ready to
It's kind of,
get my homies.
So, I can't play games
For 3 weeks.
for a long while now.
I hope that happens.
I'm upgrading to Verizon.
I got a big secret.
Why are you guys like?
Thomas, is there any way you might be able to send me the email for the homework? The one with the terminal and the email?
You guys do
Hold
like,
on, JT, let a couple more people leave and I can hear you.
like on hardware scanning.
Those are under like.
I got, okay,
Yeah,
what do you say that?
yours.
Because on my LinkedIn, I get through, so you know, Gary
No, I think
huge
you're
guy who's
better.
in my marketing.
Okay,
Huge
you
guy.
guys don't talk.
His
Kind of wonderful.
right hand man is how to get rid of class.
No, I just, once I get familiar, I just shut up.
They might find some.
Oh, no.
That's true.
You know, want to have a meeting or something.
Yeah, I don't like people.
And that dude's like multi.
I get angry usually. Yeah. I also like bullying.
Big difference. Add a zero.
Yeah.
Bye,
Alright, bye, everybody.
so Thursday, with
Sir.
the Zoom class Thursday.
I'm not gonna be there.
Oh, wait, just show you.
I'm working. Tuesday, we have a final.
I'm showing you the picture.
Take
No,
your
not you.
sugar
Where is he?
Take your sugar,
Here.
make it.
I just looked at any white dude and I'm like, you.
Anyway.
Wow.
I'm gonna say white on
When I first got on.
All right, I'm gonna show
There was
you
no
a
spare
picture.
button for either two. I should have my email.
That I took.
Bring forward one, but now there is, so I
Yeah,
did
I'm
that.
Okay.
And bring forward two, I just need to submit what I did. I was only asked you about the nano things, I found it was easiest.
So watch yourself. Cover your ass.
Yeah, well, any of them, would work. As long as they, save it as a non-meta tag file, which Word won't do.
And it was in my documents as HTML.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just, I got JT's waiting to, do you have a question? No.
That's why I always
point it
down. That's why I always do that too.
Okay, JT, I'm on.
So.
I'm watching you, but
Soup, Billy, take your soup.
I was wanting to know if you might be able to send me the homework for the terminal and the email, because I was finally able to get the Linux program to be working on my computer, but I have not been able to do that. And when I tried to get it on my EMCC, it was already too late, and I was not able to do it. So I just kind of wanted to at least try to make the effort of trying to do it.
All right, I'll either open it up or just send you the file. I'll have to go look, I don't remember. The two that were due over the break, I'll just open them up. And the one for doing the email, I think I have it as a file, I'll go find it.
Okay, that'll definitely help out quite a bit for me. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else?
Nah, that's pretty much it. So I'll see you on Thursday.
Yep, I'll see ya.
All right, bye.